the merchant of the Silk Road. In the heart of the 12th century, during the golden age of the Silk Road, the bustling city of Samarkand stood as a jewel of culture and trade. Its markets brimmed with vibrant colors and scents, saffron and cinnamon from distant lands, the shimmer of silk rolls, and the chatter of merchants speaking in countless tongues. Among these merchants was a young man named Amir, whose name was beginning to be whispered in admiration across the bazaars. Amir was no ordinary trader. He had inherited his father's modest caravan after his untimely death. His father had been a cautious man, traveling only between nearby cities. But Amir was different. He had a restless spirit, a hunger for discovery, and an ambition that stretched beyond the horizon. For years he studied maps and listened to the tales of seasoned traders who spoke of faraway cities like Chang'an in the east, where unimaginable treasures awaited those bold enough to journey there. One fateful evening, while staring at the distant mountains from the rooftop of his humble home, Amir made a decision that would change his life forever. He would embark on a perilous expedition to the farthest reaches of the Silk Road, to Chang'an itself. He gathered his resources, trading nearly all he owned for high-quality wool, spices, and fine glassware, goods that would fetch high prices in distant lands. Amir's caravan set out in the early days of spring, when the air was cool and the roads were passable. His companions were a small but trusted group: Tariq, his childhood friend and a skilled navigator; Zainab, a wise older woman who had journeyed across deserts and mountains many times; and a handful of hired guards to protect them from bandits. The journey began with relative ease as they crossed the fertile plains near Samarkand. Villages welcomed them with warm bread and sweet tea, and Amir's spirits soared with the promise of adventure. But soon the true challenges of the Silk Road revealed themselves. The desert of endless sun. The Karakum Desert was their first major trial. The sun blazed mercilessly, and the sand seemed to stretch endlessly, shimmering like gold but offering no riches. Their water supplies dwindled faster than expected, and tempers began to flare under the strain. One day, as a fierce sandstorm approached, Zainab insisted they take shelter behind a rocky outcrop. Amir, eager to push forward, argued against it. "We cannot afford delays," he exclaimed. Zainab's piercing gaze silenced him. "A trader's greatest skill is not haste but patience, Amir. Learn that, or this journey will end here." Reluctantly, Amir agreed. That night, as the storm howled around them, Amir realized that Zainab's wisdom had likely saved their lives. The mountains of ice and stone. Beyond the desert lay the towering peaks of the Pamir Mountains, known as the roof of the world. Snow-covered paths and sheer cliffs tested their endurance. One treacherous night, Tariq slipped on icy ground, narrowly avoiding a fall into the abyss. The caravan halted for days to tend to his injuries. During their time in the mountains, they encountered a lone traveler, a monk from India who carried an ancient scroll. The monk spoke little, but his presence was calming. One evening, as they shared a modest meal by the fire, he turned to Amir and said, "You seek wealth, but remember, gold and silk are fleeting. True treasures are those that cannot be carried in your hands, but only in your heart." Amir thanked the monk but dismissed his words as the musings of a man unacquainted with the harsh realities of trade. Yet, the monk's serene expression lingered in Amir's thoughts as they descended into the fertile valleys beyond the mountains. Chang'an, the city of wonders. Months after leaving Samarkand, Amir's caravan finally reached Chang'an. The city was unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering gates adorned with intricate carvings opened to reveal bustling streets filled with merchants, scholars, and performers. The markets overflowed with treasures, jade figurines, shimmering porcelain, and silk so fine it felt like water in one's hands. Amir quickly made his mark. His wool, spices, and glassware were highly sought after, and his negotiating skills earned him both profit and respect. Within months, he had amassed a fortune and moved into a luxurious home. His days were filled with banquets, trade deals, and admiration from those around him. Yet, amid the splendor, Amir felt an emptiness he couldn't explain. One afternoon, as he walked through the city, Amir noticed a group of ragged children begging near the market. Their hollow eyes and frail figures reminded him of his own struggles as a boy after his father's death. For the first time in months, Amir thought of the monk's words, "True treasures cannot be carried in your hands." The return to purpose. Over the following weeks, Amir began to change. He used his wealth to build a shelter for the city's homeless and orphan children. He provided food, clothing, and education, teaching them the art of trade and negotiation. The joy he saw in their faces brought him a deeper satisfaction than any gold or silk ever had. When the time came for Amir to return to Samarkand, he left Chang'an not only with material riches but also with a heart full of purpose. His caravan was heavier than when he had arrived, but his spirit was lighter. Back in Samarkand, Amir was no longer seen as just a wealthy merchant. He was remembered as a man who brought wisdom and compassion to his community, inspiring others to see beyond the pursuit of wealth. Legacy of the Silk Road. Amir's story spread across the Silk Road, carried by merchants, monks, and travelers. It became a tale told by campfires and in bustling marketplaces, a reminder that the greatest treasures are not gold, jade, or silk but the lives we touch and the kindness we share. And so, the Silk Road was not just a path for trade, but a bridge for understanding, generosity, and the enduring connections between people.